TV show. I was 3 minutes late. Look, I'm a newbie. I'm trying to figure out how to go live, and all along, right in front of your face, isn't that always the case? It's like right there was the button. Well, welcome to the Dr. Evie Show. My name is Dr. Evie. I hold a PhD in metaphysical philosophy. Metaphysics is the philosophy of science and thought. And if you've noticed my hashtag, it's the HAPS Challenge. Well, look, this is my third show. You know what? I'm trying to get into everything. But you know what I love about this forum and this platform? There are others just like me. We're broadcasters. We have something to say. I have something to add of value to what we call this thing we call life. I also program crystals. As you can see, this lovely crystal is illuminating. What are crystals? Crystals are energy conductors. They carry and they hold uh, energy. They are transmitters. I use crystals. I do crystal gazing. I'm going to teach you all about what crystals are and what they do. I'm kind of starting new here. I am on lesson 12 on 13 on Instagram. And so I'm trying to kind of create a basic platform here and trying to get elementary here. Go figure, right? So what's today? Today is Tuesday. It is the 26th of January. Oh my goodness. I'm in Western New York, okay? You hear that growling. That's Banjo. I have a German Shepherd, and he keeps himself entertained. Look, I've got squirrels that come to the door that want more seeds. So they're not shy. I mean, Bane's been hanging out there. What I have is out here in New York, we have doors that are really heavy duty. So I'm actually able to keep the door open with this screen door locked, of course. It's a glass door and it's insulated. Houses are really made really well here in New York. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to some peeps. And again, thank you for joining the Dr. Evie Show. And each of us is a fountain of life is the theme. Last the second show that I did, which was actually the first show, we're calling Thinking Affirmatively with, and I'm reading from Living Science of the Mind with Ernest Holmes. But I do want to give a shout out to some of my peeps here. I want to say hello to Bobby Becker. Thank you for bringing me on to HAPS. Thank you, darling. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you. Let's see. I've got four new messages. Okay, I'm gonna try to see and try to. Uh, okay, okay. Hello. There's just saying hello. All right. So I want to give a shout out to hello, Bobby Becker. Thank you for turning me on and to HAPS. I love the forum here. Found a lot of people just like me, and you as well. So thank you for that, Bobby Becker. Bobby Becker is a wonderful artist. Oh my goodness, what she does, she aside from many other things that she does, but she's also shows you how she creates art, and she's actually doing it and it's doing lessons. So thank you for sharing with that, Bobby Becker. Nicholas Morrow, you're a newbie. We're all newbies. Greetings. I think you said you're in Boston. Is that where you are? So Bobby Becker's in England, by the way. What I love about this also is that it's all around the world. It's global. So kudos to Nicholas Morrow. Peshka Calloway. Greetings to Peshka. Nice to admit you as well. We're also on Spaces on Twitter. Kind of creates like this little family atmosphere, which I'm trying to hoping I'll resonate with you as well. So cheers to Peshka. Thank you for being my Twitter friend and coming and hopping onto HAPS. I also want to thank and I want to acknowledge Pablo de la Hoya from LA. Thank you for giving me a shout out. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Um, Taryn Galo. Taryn is a friend of mine that, geez, from Facebook to Instagram. Now she's following me on HAPS. So thank you, Taryn. I know you're getting everything together, and I look forward to actually being able to interact with you folks and sharing the screen, whatnot, which I see the little ad button. Okay, well, I'm not going to get into that yet. I also want to share. Last night I was watching. I want to give a shout out to Deb also at Debit in Sacramento. So kudos, thank you for following me. Also, Deb, which I would like to acknowledge you as well. Last night I was watching a show, and it was Karen Watterson. Karen, I was so I was so entertained by you, and you were making a vegan muffins, vegan cornbread, and so I gave you a few handshakes and some coins as well. So I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your podcast, and I definitely have become a fan of yours as well. So anyway, I'm going to begin. There's also one more thing I wanted to say. I might be reading from Linda Goodman Sunsons. Nicholas, you had mentioned, and you know what is important? It really is astrology. Okay. And, astrology has been around for thousands of years. Linda Goodman Sunsons, she wrote this book. I swear I've been reading it since I was 16 and I still have it. And she gives you, oh my goodness, personality traits of all the sun signs. And she is spot on. So I might be sharing some of her oh my god, some of her feedback and what she writes about your signs, and she's right on. It's the funniest thing, but she is spot on. So I do, and I think I will share that maybe later on at the end of the podcast. So each of us is a fountain of life. And what does that mean? I'm going to be starting with Ernest Holmes' Science of Living Science of the Mind. And it's going to start like this. What I'm going to give you, I'm going to read, and I'm going to give you kind of my interpretation of that, what I read. Okay. So it starts like this. In the Colorado Rockies, there is a beautiful valley from which many fountains gush forth. Each fountain is different. More water comes from some than others. But there is only one body of water at a deep subterranean level which flows through each of them. Each fountain is supplied from this body of water, and the water that gushes through each has a pressure within itself that causes it to flow upward with an irresistible force. This may be likened to our own spiritual natures. We as individuals each have our own thoughts, feelings, hopes, aspirations, and desires, and each is directly and intimately connected with one divine life, energy, and power. Each of us is truly a fountain of life. There is a God pressure back of each one of us, a life force seeking outlet through our thoughts, our acts. There are many fountains, many individuals, but only one God pressure back of all. One of the most remarkable sayings of Jesus was that he of himself could do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Could we not say each fountain up there in the Rockies, that the fountain of itself could do nothing because it is merely an outlet for the pressure back of it? Let us personalize these fountains and give to each the power to block the flow of water through it. One fountain might say, well, I don't know whether there is water enough. I'm not quite certain that I am an outlet. Let's see, chat live. I'm going to push the button here. I don't know if what's gonna happen. I dropped my phone yesterday and I cracked the screen. So I'm trying to, let's see, chat live. I don't know if I can push this. I'm trying. I know, right? Chat live. Uh, I'm trying. It's not working. All right. That's interesting. Okay. So one fountain might say, well, I don't know whether there is enough water. I'm not quite certain that I am an outlet for this great ocean of water. I'm not even certain that I believe there is enough pressure in it to keep on flowing. Perhaps it will stop tomorrow. Another fountain might say, I'm so confused over everything. I'm so uncertain about everything that I have come to the point where I really don't know what's going to happen. And another fountain might be so filled with fear and distrust that it would block its own channel, while still another might get jealous of the other fountains and gradually come to hate them. Uh-oh. Let us make believe that these mental attitudes of the fountains could actually stop the flow of water through them. Would, Dr. Evie's turning the page. I will always tell you when I'm turning the page because it stops. Okay. Would that not be about the way all of us are at times? We become so frustrated with our little thoughts and fears and doubts that it makes it impossible for us to let God flow through us with the joy of life. Our problem is not with God, who is the river of life. It is not with the divine pressure that seeks to express itself through us. Our trouble is with ourselves. Each one of us is an inlet to the divine. But because we are individuals, we can't inhibit its flow. We can block it or squeeze it down to a small volume or even stop it. Or by opening up all the channels of faith and conviction and hope, we can increase its flow. When the natural joy of life is unblocked, it will flow freely through us, and we shall become whole and happy. But doubt, fear, uncertainty, anxiety, and a sense of insecurity can so congest our mental life that nothing good can get through. So, what does that mean, class? I'm going to do a little interpretation of what I just read. Ernest Holmes is giving you a parallel to our individuality, our personalities, and where we are in life through his parallel to fountains. There are different fountains of life. We all are different fountains of life. Not one single fountain or you or myself. No, no two fountains or people are the same. Of course, we all have our different stages where we are in life and how we perceive happiness, hope, and even fear. What is it that is holding us back from that happiness and hope. You know what Ernest Holmes is telling us? It is blockage. Don't let your fountain of life be blocked by negative thoughts. That's my interpretation of what I just read. Okay. We are born with a natural desire to express life, but almost from birth, certain factors entered our experiences which have tended to congest the flow until finally it has almost stopped. We are trying to be fountains all on our own, not realizing that each one is rooted in God, that there is a power greater than we are, a pressure against our lives from a divine source, which is self acting. Think about that. When Jesus said that a power greater than he was operating through him, he knew exactly what he was talking about. And because he kept the passageway of his own thought clear, this power was able to work through him. Think about that. Jesus never made any complicated statements. His words were simple and direct. He said, there is a fountain of life from which your life is drawn. And if you will unstop everything in your mind that congests this fountain, you will be whole. This was the fountain of his teaching. Clear your mind of everything that doubts the existence of God. Live as though love were the great reality. There's a little humming. I don't know if you can hear it. I live in a small town. That is the local fire department. You can hear the beeping here. And what it is, they are volunteers. An elder has either fallen or there is a medical, some other medical emergency. So you hear the beep. And then, of course, the village volunteers, the firefighters who volunteer, go. And so they know. So I think that stopped. Okay. So where were we? And it's going to start again. If you can hear in the background, but I'm going to talk over it anyway. So anyway, that's what that is. So live as though love were the great reality. Bless and curse not, and then accept and let. Let us use another illustration from nature and think of a great body of water up in the mountains. It is our desire to use this body of water to irrigate the valleys. We have learned that by a natural pressure within itself, which we call gravitational force, this water will flow from the high mountain tops down into the valley. But we have met with certain obstructions. There are hills and perhaps mountains in the way. In the early days, when they brought water down into Rome, they built long channels around the mountainside. This was done with terrific labor. And then there came a time when someone discovered that water, by its own pressure, will reach its own level. They discovered that if they connect a pipe with the high level, they can run water down the valley and up over the mountains and in the hills, provided that they never tried to make the water go higher than its source. They could deliver it anywhere, an incomplete volume. Well, what Ernest Holmes is relaying to us through Science of the Mind here is that the fountain, our fountain of life, we, as fountain of life, our experiences, that we reach highs and we reach lows within the valley of our life. What is the valley of our lives? The valley of our lives are the actions that we take. Manifest that which you desire, which is always my motto. It is that which the road that you take, and it is the road that you take and the choices that you make. Why? It's the choices that outline your life. So our valleys are high, our valleys are low. However, the river, our water, which is the river and of our lives, we can find ways of just letting our lives flow, letting the God mind within us flow, accept our journey, and also know that you are in control of your journey and your fountain, this fountain we call life. Dr. Evie has to put her glasses back on. But there is something else we should remember about bringing water down from the high mountain tops. No matter how large the source, the flow to any particular spot is limited to the size of the pipe through which it flows. If it is a 1-inch pipe, we shall have a 1-inch flow of water. If it is a 10-inch pipe, we shall be able to deliver a 10-inch flow wherever we want to use it. But in no instance do we force the water down. We neither push it, nor pull it, nor draw it. It furnishes its own pressure. But suppose someday we go out to open the head gate through which the water flows and no water comes. What do we do then? Do we sit down and bemoan our fate? Do we lament and beat ourselves up and say, woe is me? Do we say perhaps God doesn't want us to have water today? Or do we question whether or not the water is withholding itself from us? We do none of these things. We realize that somewhere the pipe is blocked, and so we follow it back and discover that sand has gotten into it, or mud, or silt. We clean out the debris. At once the flow resumes. The flow did not stop of itself. It was stopped because something got in its way. But we were able to remove the obstruction. We did this definitely and deliberately. We knew what we were doing and how to do it. We were complying with a natural law. And when we let the law have its way, everything was all right. This is pretty much what happens in our lives when they are, Dr. Evie's turning the page, when they are unhappy and incomplete. Somewhere we have stopped the flow. The water is still up there in the mountains. The pipe is in place. But somewhere something has gotten into the pipe that does not belong there. So we turn on the faucet and nothing happens. Well, there is no use sitting around bemoaning our fate. It is time for us to do something about it. It is time for us to follow the pipeline of our own existence back to its source, to find out what blocks it and loosen it, to free it, that the flow may resume. It is time for us to let God do it. But before God can do it, we must clear our minds of everything that hinders His doing. We must keep the pipeline open and let the water of life flow down into our living. And remembering that everything in our thinking that is unlike our highest concept of good will clog the pipes. We must look to ourselves and be honest. If we find anything in our thinking that denies life, let us clear it away. We can stop being afraid if we want to. We can stop having resentments if we want to. We can at once stop all unkindness if we want to. When now, without every doubt, and gain faith through the simple practice of learning to believe. Here is where faith and patience and the will to try and to keep on trying must be used. One can say to oneself every day, I am a fountain of life, and the living waters of God flows through me. One can say to oneself, I will express joy today. I will be happy. I will bring gladness and enthusiasm into every experience of my life. I will maintain a quiet and confidence, peace, and a sense of serenity. I will bring gladness, enthusiasm into every experience of my life. I will maintain a confidence and a peace of sense and serenity. I will be glad for the achievements of others and rejoice in their success. One can learn to love people if one wishes to. It is this kind of thinking that irrigates the dry places of life and brings laughter and joy into everything we do. It can bring health and freedom. In a place of sickness, in the place of sickness, it can bring abundance and prosperity where we might have been impoverished. But there's one thing we must remember, it is not enough to know that the pipeline out of existence begins way up there, high in the mountain tops, into which the hand of God is pouring the eternal waters of life. For this is our inlet to the divine. This inlet is forever established. We have to be that we are doing it. It is only as we as the type of open the water flows. This is why Jesus told us that we must forgive if we would be forgiven. We must love if we would be loved. We must make others happy if we would be happy ourselves. We must give if we would receive. I'm live and I'm getting all these spam calls. It is only the other end of the pipes that keep the water flow. This is what Jesus told us we must forgive if we was to be forgiven. Sometimes we hug our little good too closely to ourselves and to our lives, not being willing to cast out the four winds of heaven lest it will not return. But Jesus said that the very act of giving will at the same time bring us to the act of receiving. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, he called it. It is the one who gives the most who gets the most. And so let us learn to draw the divine substance down into our lives, and as freely as it has been given to us, let us give it to others. Thus alone we shall be made whole. What does that mean, class? Such as Ernest Holmes is telling us, to give is to receive. We sow what that which we reap. We reap what we sow. Give unto others as you would give unto yourself, and you shall get it back. This world and this life, as we go through our lives, always remember it is always best to give in kindness and in love and in life. It is the kindness of our hearts that make our world go round. On that note, I want to send you a star. Quick catch it. This is Dr. Evie. I hope you enjoyed my little podcast. I'm going to do another show tomorrow, and I'm going to tap out here. Let's see how this works. Okay, alrighty. At any rate, I want to send you a star. Quick catch it. Thank you for joining the Dr. Evie show. Sending you love and light, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.